Alright, welcome everyone. In today's video, I want to go over activity 1.3.3, steps 9 through 16. Now for this one, we have to change our units of measurement to millimeters. So go ahead and click the gear icon and then select millimeters and press OK and overwrite. Now we can start a new folder. Let's go ahead and create. Okay, so step 10 says create a sketch similar to the one shown. As you create the sketch, note any notifications or indications that the program is suggesting geometric configurations. Accept any suggestions that seem appropriate while creating the sketch. So let's go ahead and create that sketch. I'm going to use a front plane. I'm going to start with the line command. All right, there we go. Now, again, let's go ahead and create the whole polygon. Okay. All right, so now that I'm done, I'm going to press the escape key, and then notice that the geometric constraints they disappeared, right? So all I have to do is click one of the lines and say show all constraints, and now you can see all of the constraints that were automatically applied to the polygon. Okay, so now let's go ahead and go through step 11. Review the constraints that were automatically applied as you created the sketch. So let's go ahead and see what this one is. So again, you're gonna have to double check here. This one is the perpendicular constraint. It causes selected linear geometry to lie at right angles to each other. So there you have the example. The next one that we have is the vertical constraint, right? The horizontal constraint, horizontal and vertical constraint. Causes lines, ellipses, axes, or pairs of points to lie parallel to the x-axis of the sketch coordinate system. So now we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 perpendicular constraints, and then one horizontal constraint. Again, step 12 says create a quick hand sketch to describe the constraints that were automatically applied. So again, this is going to be in your notebook. So all you're going to do is sketch the constraints, sketch the symbols, and then what do they do? Investigate 13. Investigate how the constraints affect the sketch behavior by selecting individual lines and points and dragging each using your mouse. Okay, so again, you should be able to grab the corners when if it turns green, you're able to drag the corners. Right, so all I'm going to do is right click because I want to see the constraints. Say show all constraints. Now I believe it's at this point where you can't drag the corners, right? Because it's showing the lines. So let's go ahead and press escape. Let's go ahead and hide all constraints. And now I am able to drag the corners. There we go. Okay. Create line, now place feature, no sketch after dimension display. Okay, so again, if you hide the geometric constraints, then you're able to drag the corners. Right, so you might have to go here, right click and say hide all constraints, and then now you're able to drag each of the corners. There we go. So because you have the perpendicular constraint, if we were to drag this corner, again, it would stay perpendicular, right? Whereas this corner would not stay perpendicular because it doesn't have the constraint applied. So now on to step 14, remove a few of the constraints one at a time and observe how the sketch behavior changes when you drag sketch elements. Okay. So let's go ahead and delete some of these. We'll go ahead and delete all of them. And then now we'll right click and say hide all constraints. And now when we drag them, again, it doesn't stay perpendicular, right? Because we deleted that constraint. Same thing goes for all of our corners. So now it can go, our polygon can get a little weird shaped, right? Because there's no rules in place, no constraints in place. There we go. Okay, so step 15 says discard your previous sketch. Okay, we can just click X here. Okay. We do not want to save. We'll just start a new sketch. On the front plane. Step 16, begin a new sketch to create a similar shape using lines and program suggested constraints. Don't worry about the lines, or don't worry about the length. We'll place dimensional constraints later. Okay, on step A, on line 1, place a line on the x-axis. Allow the software suggested a horizontal constraint. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and place a line on the x-axis. And now we see that the horizontal constraint is applied. Okay, so now line 2, create a new line coincident to the left endpoint of the first line and perpendicular to the original line per the image. So that means that our next line is going to be here. All right, we got it. Now line 3, let's go ahead and go with line 3. Add a third line perpendicular to the second in a similar way. Now we can see the perpendicular constraint is being applied. Okay, now line 4, we're gonna go up this way, and then we're gonna go up. Now let me go ahead and drag over to the next line. So now again, it says on F, line 6, avoid putting it straight so there's no automatic constraints, right? We want to put it slightly off horizontal so there's no automatic constraints. Okay. Now we're on letter G, complete the sketch. Line 7, enforce a parallel constraint. Okay, let's go ahead and make it parallel to the other line. There we go. Line 8, enforce a perpendicular constraint with line 4. Okay. Line 9, enforce a parallel constraint with line 3. So we'll make it the same as this one. Actually, if we go back, we can undo. And then this one will make perpendicular. There we go. There we go. So now if I right click and say show all constraints, now we have our constraints. It says no, your sketch polygon may be shaped differently. That's fine. Again, if you're missing some of these constraints, you can go ahead and add them. For example, we can go ahead and make these perpendicular by selecting these two. There we go. So now they're perpendicular. And then this one's going to equal this other line here. So this line is going to equal, actually we have to delete this first. Delete. And then we press equal this other line. There we go. And that is it. So again, you can go ahead and save it and then add your text. There we go. So you can go ahead and take your full window screenshot and make sure that the constraints are visible. Thank you, and I will see you in the next video.